Universe looks like it is going to be using a virtual line system to control the crowds and reduce wait times. Hello everybody, welcome. Today we're going to talk about everything you need to know about this virtual line system to make sure that you get the most out of your visit to Epic Universe once the park opens. Virtual line systems are not new to theme parks. In fact, they have been around for a long time. Anybody familiar with Disney has probably had a run-in with their FastPass system or their virtual queues for select attractions. And most everybody probably has some strong opinions on these controversial systems. Some positive and definitely some negative. In fact, Disney's virtual queue system is largely considered to be frustrating and painful for a lot of guests. Some complaints about their system include difficulty in even getting the virtual queue. Ever heard of Gone in 60 Seconds?
Okay, let's run.
Well, let's talk Gone in 0.6 seconds. If you've ever tried to get a virtual queue for one of the popular attractions like Rise of the Resistance or Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, you know that at 7 o'clock in the morning, you've got to hit that button. You have less than 1 second. You've got like 0.6 seconds to secure that virtual queue, and they're all gone for the entire day. And one of the worst parts about the virtual queue system is even when you finally score one of those coveted virtual queue passes, you still have to wait in line, even for an hour or more in the line. Others don't like the fact that it feels like you're forced to be on your phone all day with their fast pass and multi-pass and single pass systems and lightning lanes, and you're constantly having to be on your phone to try to secure that next attraction before you can even go over there versus just being able to kind of float over, get in the next line. There's even conspiracy theories out there that Disney introduced virtual queues because they wanted to sell more of their lightning passes, because if you couldn't get a virtual queue, there was no standby line, and your only option to get to ride that ride is to purchase an additional lightning pass. But that doesn't mean that all of these virtual systems have to necessarily be bad. In fact, when they're done right, they're actually pretty great. It might surprise you that Universal already has virtual line systems, and they've been using them for years. First, let's talk about their tapu system. This is what they use over at Volcano Bay, their water park. This is a very similar system to the virtual line. Now, one of the unique features about the tapu is it's connected to a free wristband that they give you while you're in the water park. This absolutely makes sense because you don't want to be carrying around a phone when you're going to different water attractions. One of the big things with the tapu is it is one at a time with use with the virtual lines. The way it works is you walk up to an attraction and there will be a little kiosk there, and if there is no virtual line for the attraction, it will simply say ride now. If there is currently a virtual line for that attraction, it will have a return time window to tell you how long the wait is. Then all you have to do is tap your wristband and you're automatically put into that queue. One of the important things about the tapu is that you can only do one attraction at a time. If you go to scan a different one, it will erase whatever you currently have on your tapu. This is something I want to point out now because it has ramifications for Epic Universe. Now, one of the best things about the tapu is the way it's designed. You only have to wait in that line once you return for maybe 5 to 10 minutes at most. So let's give an example. Say there's about 50 minutes worth of people in front of you in line at that virtual queue. They will essentially give you an hour return time. So once you come back, you will have waited 50 minutes outside of the line, and then once you're inside of the line, you only have to wait about 10 minutes. So that's a little bit about the tapu. Let's talk now about the virtual line system that Universal already has in place. This virtual line system has been used for select attractions for many years now. One of the attractions you may have seen it used for is Jimmy Fallon's Race Through New York. It's also been used for the Mardi Gras float, and it was used during COVID for a lot of the attractions. The way it works is you download the Universal Orlando Resort app. You can either go to the virtual lines section where it will show you all things that have virtual lines, or you can go to an individual attraction and there will be a virtual line section there if virtual line is active for that attraction. You choose that virtual line pass option, then you get a list of different times that are available. You simply choose one of those times you want to return, then you're good to go. Once that window arrives, you'll be able to get a QR code, and that will allow you to sort of scan in to that attraction. You go to that attraction, you'll have somebody there, you can scan in, you can go right on it. Now, one of the big things about the virtual line system as it exists today is you can have multiple virtual lines active at a time. Unlike the tapu, which is one at a time, This particular system allows you to have multiple at a time. In addition, you can change the time if you don't like the time. Say your day has changed, things are going a little bit differently than you thought, you can go in and you can alter the time that you selected to something different. Again, this is unlike the Tapu Tapu. It has no feature like that. You can't change the time. You are basically locked in. The bad thing about the Tapu Tapu is if it said it was a 3-hour wait, you click on your Tapu Tapu, you're kind of stuck now. You got to wait 3 hours before you can get a different attraction, or you have to go to a different attraction and erase it. So this is a much better feature in this virtual line system, to have multiple things at a time and be able to select your time and change your time. Now, just like Disney's virtual queue system and even the Tapu Tapu, they will run out of these virtual lines. So it is possible that at some point during the day, there will be no times available whatsoever. In addition, this is a feature they can turn on and off. They can have no virtual line for an attraction. They can have a virtual line and a standby line. So they can have it turned on, but still have the ability to have a standby line. They've done that in the past. So depending on the capacity of the park, depending on the capacity of the attraction, they can turn this virtual line system on. And again, they can either have all virtual line with no standby option at all, and they can have virtual line and standby. So how will this virtual line system work with Epic Universe? Let's talk a little bit about what we know and some speculation, since the park isn't technically open yet. When the Universal Resort app first launched, when they first added Epic Universe to their app, a virtual line section showed up under each of the lands in Epic Universe. Now, this has since been removed, but we know that this feature does exist at a land level. This indicates that they may be thinking about using this virtual line system for an entire land, using the portals that they've designed so they can open and close the portals. So if they want to close off an entire land, maybe something's going on there, or there's a private event, or they don't want people in there during like previews and things, they can shut an entire land off, not just individual attractions, which is a really cool design choice. But what that also means is that they could potentially be thinking about using this virtual line to close off an entire land so that you can't even go in and explore the land, much less ride any of the attractions, without having a virtual line return time. If they go this way, it will be a first, because they've only really traditionally used virtual lines for attractions and things like the Mardi Gras float or Halloween Horror Night houses. Now, clearly this will be used to control the crowds and the traffic. If there are too many people trying to get into one portal, they're going to have to shut it off and do a virtual line system. Now, obviously, they can turn this on and off throughout the day, depending on the flow of traffic and how crowded an area gets. Now, it's also quite likely that they have the virtual line system for individual attractions as well, just like they use it at Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure. Typically, you know that an attraction is on a virtual line because there is sort of a little billboard marquee out there out front of the attraction with a QR code that you can scan and get into the virtual line. Again, you can use the Universal Orlando app. That's the best way. You don't even have to go to the attraction to see that it's on the virtual line. But there is also a billboard there usually letting people know. Now, I do want to point out that Universal recently filed a new trademark for the name Virtual Line, presumably because they don't want anyone else using the virtual line. Disney uses the words virtual queue. Not really sure why they filed the trademark, because they already had a trademark for virtual line out there from years ago. That was filed way back on November 14th of 2017. And some of the visuals that they used for that trademark were around Jimmy Fallon and some of the other areas. This new one was just filed on March 11th of this year, 2025. Again, not really sure why. I am not an expert in trademarks to understand why they would need to file a new one unless there's something that they're thinking about using it differently. Again, very highly likely it's because of Epic Universe. They want to make sure they can use it there and they want it to be locked in. So if they end up using this virtual line system for Epic Universe, it could just be in the beginning. It could just be something they're thinking about for media previews, annual pass holder previews, the team member previews. But it is very likely that they are considering using it during peak operating hours, especially during the grand opening day, some of the weeks that follow when it's going to be really crowded. I know that they are very seriously thinking about crowds, capacity. They want to make sure people have a great experience. They don't want people just coming to the park and standing in line all day. So if they end up using this, I think it'll be great as long as it is not for every single attraction. In order for this virtual line system to work, you really need to have things that are off virtual line. You don't want to be stuck on your phone all day, panicking, trying to select a virtual line for every single thing you want to do for the entire day. Virtual line is nice to say for something like Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein experiment, to sort of say, hey, I want to ride that, but I don't want to stand in line for 4 hours. I'm just going to select a time and then I'm gonna go do like the carousel, or I'm gonna do a different attraction like Curse of the Werewolf, or maybe do one of the shows like Les Cirque Arcanus. Like having the ability to do different things that don't require a virtual line, just being able to get in standby or kind of meander over to it. That's what it's really gonna take for virtual line to be successful. If every single attraction is on it at the same time, it's going to be really frustrating and painful. If the virtual line ends up being land-based, where they shut an entire portal off, I'm not really sure how that works, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to love that. I don't know, because I've never seen that before. I don't know how it will work, and if you've gone into the land once, can you then go into the land again later, or do you have to get a new virtual line? You know, or do you have to make sure you got to do everything in that land before you leave that land? What if all the lands are on virtual line at the same time? I feel like that's going to be kind of clunky and cumbersome, but it might work really great. I don't know. We'll find out when we get in there and experience it. So again, just to reiterate, the virtual line is expected to work the same way it works today. Multiple attractions at a time, being able to change your time, using the Universal Orlando Resort app to reserve your time and to see what's on virtual line. It's the same system. So definitely go in there and play with it now. If you go to Universal, look for those virtual line options, kind of click around and see, so you see how it works. Hopefully you got an overview of that in this video, so you won't be fumbling with it when it's time. Let me know what you think. Do you think this virtual line system is a good idea? Are you worried about it? Do you feel like it might detract from the experience? I will say, if it keeps me from waiting in line for 4 or 5 hours, I'm gonna be super happy about it. So I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this content. Once we know more information, we will definitely let you know. Once again, thanks for watching. Until I see you next time, the noble way is the easy way. Bye-bye, everybody.